After making my last few videos on the hexagram rituals of the Golden Dawn, I'd like to continue this series on planetary magic with a brief look at the planetary ritual that I prefer, the ritual of the heptagram. I prefer it because it's simpler, more elegant and less prescriptive, and therefore leaves a much wider scope for personal engagement. I'm fully aware that this isn't necessarily a characteristic that everyone appreciates, and for those of you who prefer something a little less improvisational for your rituals, the hexagram rituals of the Golden Dawn and Thelema are certainly well-respected alternatives. It might seem obvious that the first thing to do when researching the heptagram would be to do a quick internet search. However, if we have a look at the first few images that such a search brings up, we're likely to get more than a little confused and even possibly a little disheartened. While it's clear that the 7 branches relate directly to the 7 classical planets, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars, Jupiter and Saturn, another thing that's very clear is that nobody can seem to agree on which point of the heptagram should be attributed to which planet. In his 1614 alchemical opus Theatrum Chemicum, Stolzius von Stolzenberg represents the heptagram with 2 points upwards, and Saturn pointing straight down, which certainly has its appeal, Saturn being the most chthonic, Earth-related of the 7 planets. But then we might look at the heptagram of the Aurum Solis, the Hermetic order that was created around the same time as the Golden Dawn, and that was made popular by Melita Denning and Osborne Phillips. Their heptagram places Saturn at the top, and you'll also see that there's a different order to the planets. Saturn is surrounded by Mars and Mercury here, whereas on von Stolzenberg's version, we're looking at the Moon and Jupiter on either side of Saturn. It is, however, an interesting one as the planets follow the order known as the Chaldean planetary order as you follow the lines of the heptagram. What's the Chaldean order of the planets, I hear some of you ask? Well, to the ancients, the biggest difference between the planets and the stars was that the stars were fixed in the sky, relative to each other, of course, not the horizon, whereas the planets moved all over the place. This is why the sun and the moon were considered to be planets. The Chaldean order is the order of how quickly each planet was perceived to move across the starry background, with the moon going the fastest, followed by Mercury, gradually going slower through to Venus, the Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and finally Saturn, the slowest planet associated with lead and apathy and limitations. It's also, and probably not coincidentally, the order you get as you go up the tree of life. Moon, Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. And so if you follow the Aurum Solis's heptagram's lines, Widdershins, so counterclockwise, all the way around to each of its points, you get the Chaldean order. Moon, Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Now, an even later version that I rather like is the Wiccan heptagram with the moon at the top. The moon's very central to Wicca, so it makes sense for it to be the most prominent, exalted of the planets at the top spot. What I like about the Wiccan version is that you still get that Chaldean order if you just follow the points successively in a circle around the heptagram. But if you follow its lines around its 7 points in a Widdershins or counterclockwise circle, you get the planetary days of the week, Monday through Sunday. Well, those 3 versions are probably the most authoritative, but clearly there are many, many other versions. Which leads me to the natural conclusion that there isn't a right, orthodox form. So once again, as the heretic that I am, I just can't help myself, can I? I start tinkering. And here's my version, which encompasses as much of the aforementioned nice features and a little extra, so check it out. It's essentially the Wiccan heptagram, only with the order reversed, so like in the original von Stolzenberg diagram. You can see that Saturn is deosil, clockwise, from the moon, rather than Widdershins, like in the Wiccan version. Only I've got the sun at the top. And you'll see that suddenly a few things start to click. First of all, at the top, we have something like an echo of the supernal triad, with the sun standing in for Kether at the very top. And yes, sure, Mars should be associated with Gevurah, and Venus with Netzach. But if you think of what else these symbols represent, we have the divine masculine here, of Chokmah at the top of the Yang pillar of mercy. And we have the divine feminine of Bina over here at the top of the Yin pillar of severity. Now, as we work our way down, we have Chesed on the right over here, being on its correct pillar of mercy, and Hod over here, accurately on its pillar of severity. And all the way down here at the bottom, we have the planets associated with the underworld. Luna, the planet of Hecate, and Saturn, the chthonic planet associated with the Titans. And interestingly, only the moon retains its position from the Aurum Solis layout, which is a nice nod, I think, to the Wiccan reason for keeping it at the very top. The way I use it is identical to the way I use the pentagram, and the way the Golden Dawn uses the hexagram for the most part. I pick a planet whose properties I want more of in my life, or less of, as the case may be, and then on the day of the planet, and preferably during the hour of that planet, I consult a mobile app and find out the current location of that planet in the sky just then. And then after performing a lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, I turn to face that direction. I bring to mind all the properties and attributes that I can think of for that planet, like filling my mind with a particular color, maybe sentiments, thoughts, words, emotions, impressions, all associated with that planet. Then, if I'm after a particularly powerful connection, I'll read the Orphic hymn associated with the Greek god of that planet. And finally, I draw the heptagram, Deosil to invoke or Widdershins to banish, starting at the point associated with that planet. If I'm invoking, well, to be honest, I've never really experienced the need to banish, I'll then speak from the heart, offering thanks first of all for aspects of my life that are related to that sphere that are going well, and then I might ask for alterations in areas that I perceive as lacking. Personally, just because of the nature of what I do, I then bring the names of the level 3 members who've asked to be mentioned during that day's ritual up on my phone, and I ask the entities and powers of that sphere to bless those members with energies in quantities and qualities that'll be both appreciated and of use to that member, no more, no less, reading out the names one by one. When I've finished, I thank the powers and entities involved and tell them to please receive my deep gratitude. As you have come in peace, please go in peace. So a straightforward license to depart. As I mentioned, I don't tend to banish, though should I ever need to, the method is simply to draw the heptagram in the opposite Widdershins direction, and you can close up with an LBRP. And there we are, that's the way I perform my heptagram ritual. Now, I may not use the Aurum Solis heptagram layout, but the book Planetary Magick by Denning and Phillips is chock full of planetary rituals that use the heptagram for various purposes. And it's a real treasure trove of planetary equivalences and attributes if you're not sure what to think about while you're invoking. From musical scales to associated perfumes and incenses and textures, it's really an indispensable book if you're thinking about getting into planetary magic at all. And I've reviewed it, so you can check that video out. If you're not quite sure why you would want to invoke planetary powers and spirits, I'd recommend checking out my video called Why I Talk to Many Spirits, which is also linked below. If you enjoyed the video, please remember that the like button down there is a great way to show your appreciation. And if you feel you can support my channel in an even more impactful way, there are links to my Patreon down in the description, and also to my PayPal if you'd like to buy me a coffee. Foolish Fish members get access to the Foolish Fish Discord server, where they get access to a repository of around 300 different channels of magical topics where they get to ask and answer focused questions and help each other out on practice and theory-related topics. A huge thank you to every member out there supporting me and my channel, especially Caitlin Kopok and David Venturini, our 2 Level Infinity Lux Eterna members. And of course you can see all the Level 3 Magister Venerabilis members scrolling up on the side there. A tremendous thank you to you, but really regardless of the level 1, 2, 3 and Infinity, I want to tell you how much it means to me that you would care enough about my channel to even send a single penny in my direction to keep it all going. I'm really deeply touched. Thank you all so much. Do leave a like, do subscribe if you haven't done so already. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I'll see you very soon with another video.